Welcome to another edition of Pittsburgh Sportsline. Thanks for watching our show. I'm Al Levine, the Talking Machine. I got Chip the Prophet Hayner. There we go. And if you notice, Smoking Jim's missing. He's a busiest guy in Pittsburgh media. He's going to be on the show Championship Chase, and he's been doing that for a while this year. So with the holiday, they usually do it on Thursday, and only works 3 days a year. Right, Chip?
Yeah, so this doesn't count. Playing co-hosting a show with Liz Almendanza does not work.
No, not at all. And to give you a little insight, you know how he's always telling us to bet the house, and he's usually wrong. He's the leading winner on that show. He's won a championship belt each week. So
does that speak to his ability to pick, or is it just everybody else that bad?
Well, no, here's what I think happens. Chip, you know how everybody says if you're not cheating, you're not trying? Well, what would you do if you were the last person to pick every week? I mean, seriously. I think he has an edge there, and you would too. Yeah, I would have an edge.
I remember the last game he picked here was how Duke was going to beat Pitt.
Oh.
Well, I guess that didn't happen either.
No. But good luck to my buddy. He'll be watching this, so he'll critique us and enjoy the show. Smoking Jim, Chief, all the other guys. And I want a special thanks to Johnny Mariano for texting me. He was the first person to text. Usually I'm not checking my phone, but I got about a half a dozen texts, and they were all about no audio.
See, I explained to Chief, we were lip syncing last week. It was all a play. We were trying to catch people to see if they were really paying attention, if what we say matters, and apparently it does.
Yeah, it does. And I want to thank everybody in Bethel Park for watching us on Comcast 7. I just can't believe how many people have Comcast 7. But we're also on Verizon 32, and we're seen everywhere in the local area, from Nemacolin to Cranberry, Wexford. We're just at the Park House. Some people have watched us in Northside, so appreciate the great feedback. And I have to announce on our Facebook page, we hit a brand new high. Jim J, we're at 4,963. So we're 37 away from that 5K. It just means something, another milestone. So I appreciate it with everybody with the likes, and we'll just move forward with it. And we're going to start our show with What's on Our Mind. And we do that every week, but we're missing Smoking Jim, so I'll keep the pen right here. I got the green, and I'll keep it with Levine. Okay. So, Chip, we'll start. What's on your mind?
All right, I got a couple of things that's on my mind. That was going to be just one topic this week, but
you can expand.
Being that we've got some moments to fill, and we don't want any dead air, going to go over a couple of different things. And for once, somebody in the NFL has gotten it right. Johnny Football, we all know about his storied past and even present, but here is a bust of an NFL quarterback, a first-round draft pick. Once again, the Browns blew the 22nd pick in the draft by drafting a quarterback that couldn't play football. And, the Browns were in such dire straits that the gentleman they had starting, Josh McCown, was hurt. And last week, before the bye week, after his performance against the Steelers, the Cleveland Browns announced Johnny Football has earned the starting job for the rest of the season. We are going to find out if he can play football or not. So after Wednesday's practice, the players had 4 days off. And what does Johnny Football do? But he goes back down to College Station, or was in a nightclub in Austin, where he's out there drinking and carousing. And this is the same person that spent 60 days in a rehab facility because of an alcohol problem last year. The Cleveland Browns are working very hard trying to rehabilitate him, but he gets pictures snapped of him dancing around in a club with a bottle of champagne, acting like a fool instead of treasuring the position that he has, which is one of only 32 positions in the United States, which is a starting NFL quarterback. So what the Cleveland Browns promptly did today after the photos became public, Johnny Football is now the third string quarterback. He has been moved all the way down to the bottom of their depth chart. And I applaud the Cleveland Browns. There's not much I've ever applauded for the Cleveland Browns, but I applaud them for dropping the hammer on him and letting him and the rest of the world know that, hey, you know what? If you want to be a starting quarterback in the NFL, this isn't a joke. It isn't fun and games. You're getting paid millions of dollars. Some people may say, oh, it's not fair. He's a young man. He has the right to go out and do his thing. Well, you know what? No, he doesn't. He's a quarterback on an NFL team. These are billion-dollar franchises. He's entrusted with guiding their offense. And if he doesn't take his job seriously, he doesn't have to have his job. If it was up to me, I'd cut bait with him right now because you're not going to get anything for him in a trade. Whatever money you spent on him, you wasted. Any money you spend on him in the future is wasted. So way to go, Cleveland Browns. That's point one.
Part one here.
Number two, last weekend there were 8 high school semifinal football playoff games played on Friday night. There were 3 or 4 games that were really games to watch. Very memorable battles fought. Steel Valley almost upset South Fayette. Steel Valley played their heart out, came up just a little short. South Fayette is going to be meeting Aliquippa for the AA championship. Those are the 2 best teams in AA. Got to tip my hat to Steel Valley. They played way above their heads because South Fayette ran them out of the Steel Valley Stadium just about a month ago. You had the Pine Richland Penn Trafford game, and I know that Jim does not have a very fond affinity for the Penn Trafford team, but they came from behind. And with 7 seconds left on the clock, Brett Lafone, and I will get to him later, completed a touchdown pass for Penn Trafford to remain undefeated, go into the championship game this weekend after Central Catholic returned the favor to Woodland Hills, who beat them earlier this year, and beat them, and they're going back to the championship. So there's games that were worth watching. Well, Root Sports, which is our local sports network that carries the Pirates games, the Penguins games. Well, they have also bought the rights to all the WPIAL football games. Well, searching the channels on Friday night, trying to catch at least one of the high school football games, wasn't able to do that. For whatever reason, Root Sports chose not to broadcast the games. Now, there are plenty of local stations that would have loved to put one or some or even all of the games on TV. And wouldn't that have been great? Because the only thing bigger in Western Pennsylvania than high school football is, of course, the Steelers. Yeah. But, I mean, high school football is huge. You know, they did get around, oh, by the way, of replaying the game Sunday night. But this is after the fact. Yeah. It kind of takes a little bit away from enjoying a game. So my question is, why is Root Sports buying up the rights to something that it doesn't plan to use? And if they aren't going to use it, sell the rights to somebody else that will broadcast it, because there's a lot of people that would enjoy watching some quality football, but subsequently Root Sports didn't feel that was necessary. You know, and here's the thing. You got Championship Saturday coming up. Yeah. Championship Saturday is all 4 high school, all 4 classes in the WPIAL will be playing their championship games Saturday. So you've got a game. The first game is Jeanette and Clareton.
Clareton, I thought.
Yeah, Clareton. Yeah. I'll get it right here.
Go ahead. You got
it's Clareton and Jeanette will be playing at 11 o'clock on Saturday. The 2 o'clock game, Root Sports decided they were going to make that the Quad A game, which is generally the most popular of the games. It's going to be post Central Catholic against Penn Trafford. Well, we've got great matchups in the AAA with Central Valley and Thomas Jefferson. And you've got the game of the day, I believe, which would be South Fayette and Aliquippa playing. They're ranked number 1 and number 2 in the state. And I think that would be the best game. But nobody's going to get a chance to watch that because of Root's prior contractual arrangements with the Penguins. Yeah. So they moved the Quad A game up to 2 o'clock so that they could get people to watch that because they're going to be able to broadcast that game. They put a stinker on, like Clareton and Jeanette at 11. Why didn't they move the Double A game up, which is something more people would be interested in seeing, okay?
Sure.
But no, we can't do that. So, when they'll broadcast the games is after the fact, and once again, you're going to be watching a game on television that you already know the outcome of, and it kind of takes a little bit away from it. So, shame on Root Sports. I mean, if you're not going to broadcast the games, then why tie up the rights to them? And your contractual obligations when there are other people that would be willing to broadcast them. And, there is a lot of interest in people wanting to see that. But shame on Root Sports. That's what's on my mind, Alan.
All right. Well, that was a good opening there. I'll get my promos out since I know that'll take a while. We got a few. First is Rosie ready to do a close-up on Olive Oil's Pizzeria. I think Rosie, she finished her piece of pizza already. So... must have been good. If we can get a close-up on there. Should I move it? Folks, this is live TV. But anyhow, call 412-831-1900, and you can order up your pizza. Tell them Pittsburgh Sportsline ate their pizza. We liked it. And they're right up there at Hillcrest Shopping Center. There we go. Nice little menu there. Thank you, and I have a couple more things to bring up.
Do they have a second location?
Yeah, they actually have 3 locations now.
I drove past one. Yes, down in Canonsburg. I was down that way.
And they opened up a new one in Washington, downtown Washington.
I saw. Drove through Canonsburg yesterday, and
yeah, that's the original store.
Okay.
Yeah, shout out to Frank. We appreciate it. Here's another promo. This is a little early for your Christmas plans. Jessica Lee will be performing there with her Jessica Lee Jazz and Blues, and they're going to do a combination, an old Hollywood Christmas, jazz and blues. RML Jazz is there. I met Rick Louse. He's a hand drummer on the congas. He's just amazing, so wait till you hear him. Doors open at 6:30. Free hand drumming lessons at 7 o'clock, and the show starts at 7:30. It'll be Christmas stories and songs, so it'll be a great combination. Tickets are only $12 for the auditorium seating. There's tables, and the seats are only $15 at a table. I was out there last week. It's been remodeled, $500,000 worth of remodeling. It's a nice facility. They even have food there for you to order. They have drinks. There's a bar, a cash bar, so you can do that. There's even a dance floor, so the kids can dance, and you can dance with your sweetie, Smoking Jim. So that can happen. Now, a good friend of our show and great caricature artist, I don't know if you can pull up on this. He's everywhere now. Every weekend, caricatures by Vince Ornato. Here's some of the quality that he's done. Look at his sketches, and they're caricatures. He does it within 3 minutes. I think he's done over 70,000 of them in the last 30 years. Very talented, and he'll be at the mall at Robinson, like every weekend, including right after Christmas, December 26th and 27th, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. And here's the amazing thing. Rosie, if you could pull up on this. Look at what he charges for a caricature.
Affordable.
Now, if you have ever had one, you might pay $10, $15. You go away on vacation, somebody might charge you $20. This guy is a professional. He's a painter. He's done industrial paintings for big companies. And look, only $7.99 to get your mug on something, and you can even get them framed. So check that out. Let's see what else I got here. Okay, last night I met a nice gentleman, Coach Brown, Nate Brown. He has this 5A Elite company that he runs, and he's helping the neighborhoods in the area from, all the underprivileged neighborhoods. He's out there meeting and greeting people, and he's had great success. He was a championship at Won championships at Perry, was a great basketball player, and the only thing that stopped him was a blown-out knee in his junior year, or he may have been in the NBA. So just a great guy, some great information. He's an interesting guy who helps a lot of children too, so just check that out. I better get to what's on my mind. Now, I was talking a little bit about last night. I'm watching the Cincinnati Bengals, and the first thought that came to my mind is once they lost, they become the Bungles. And Myron Cope conjured up Myron Cope, hearing him saying about the Bungles and double yoy. And sure enough, what looked like an unbeatable team looks like there's cracks in the wall, and now the Steelers actually have some hope. I was saying 8-8, but the way the league around them is sort of faltering, there is some hope. We play Cincinnati again. Anything can happen. We'll have a little Steeler talk, but this was what's on my mind because everybody's talking the Steelers won't do this. It's done. You just never know. Even myself, I didn't know how they'd do it if the team won another 3 games, but here they lost 2 in a row. So there's hope is alive for the Steelers, and don't give up yet, and all we got to do is win. That'll be the key thing, and we'll talk about that in our Steelers segment, and we'll get to that shortly. So thanks for listening, and check out all the things that I've promoted here, and make a call and get your pizza or hoagie, 412-831-1900, Olive Oil's Pizzeria. I don't want to distract you. You might get hungry again.
Yeah, I know. I'm telling you.
That was good. All right, now we go to our segments. We're not going to do fiction and fact from Smoking Jim's Almanac because I'd want to just give a couple facts, so we'll leave that alone for now. And he knows. He'll be watching this, so I don't want to take anything away from him. Never let the facts get in the way of his opinions or ours, so we'll move forward. Let's get to Chip's trivia time right now.
Okay. Well, thank you, Alan. And my trivia segment this week is going to be a little on the light side. In a hurry of rushing out of my office this afternoon, shooting to be here on time, I left a lot of good trivia that I had accumulated, but I do have some for you. Now, last week I talked about a quarterback from Penn Trafford, which Jim wasn't too happy about me bringing up. A young man named Brett Lafone. And Brett, by his performance Friday night against Pine Richland, he passed for 292 yards and I believe 3 touchdowns. And of course, the game winner
was
7 seconds left. But he became the 16th quarterback in WPIAL history to pass 5,500 yards passing in his career. Well, he has now a chance this weekend, depending on how Penn Trafford fares this weekend. He could become the 10th quarterback in WPIAL history to pass the 6,000-yard mark.
Wow!
Which obviously he's probably got a very good chance of doing that either on Saturday. If not Saturday, probably the first round of the state playoffs. But we want to tip our hats to him and the Penn Trafford team. And, Jim doesn't have a lot of love for them because the head coach of the Penn Trafford team was somebody that used to be an assistant coach at Gateway. And they've put feelers out to try to get him to come back, and he's not interested. And they said that the Saturday night or Friday night was the most exciting game in quarterfinal history in Whip-Eels. Well, they said the second most exciting game was played back in 2007. And a certain Gateway team was playing, and they came up on the short end of the stick that day.
You mean that happened?
Oh, yeah, it does happen. And I know if Jim was here, I'd be catching an elbow to the ribs. But, hey, Jim, nothing but love for you, buddy.
Those things do happen.
Now, just getting into, to touch on some statistics from last week. The top rusher last weekend's game is a kid. It's a monster. I believe he's already agreed to play for Pitt. His name's Kazon Pugh out of Aliquippa. I believe that he is related in some way or another to Darrell Revis.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Yeah, and Jim knows the specifics on that.
I think he might have said a nephew or something. I'm not sure.
In some way, he's related. Yeah. So that I'll leave it at that.
Or a cousin, as Smoking Jim calls everybody.
But he had a monster day, 230 yards rushing. Aliquippa is going to be going up against South Fayette. Top passers, Central Valley's quarterback Chris Galligan, 301 yards passing, completed 10 passes, 10 of 21 passes. Actually had a real nice day. Another quarterback of mention, and this is somebody that I believe you're going to want to keep an eye on moving forward. His name's Phil Jerkovic, and Jim has talked about him several times. He's only a sophomore. Yeah. He's already being recruited by Notre Dame. This kid, if he performs on a par that he's been performing on in his first year as a starter, he could actually break the total yardage by a high school quarterback of over 11,000 yards by the time he graduates, because Pine Richland, look for them to be playing in the championship games the next 2 years. So you want to keep an eye out for that.
Mark that down, folks. Take some notes.
Now to get you some pro football trivia. I was one of the most famous receivers of the early NFL is a guy named Don Hutson.
Yeah.
He was a wide receiver for the Green Bay Packers, and the question came up: who was the first receiver in the NFL history to catch 100 passes in a season? And I thought for sure it was going to be Don Hutson. Well, I was wrong. It was none other than the greatest of all time, Jerry Rice.
Wow.
And who is the first running back in NFL history to score 15 or more touchdowns in 5 consecutive seasons?
I don't know.
Well, he would be Sean Alexander, former of the Seattle Seahawks.
Get on.
Was on the Seahawks team that the Steelers beat in Super Bowl 40, from which I understand they're still shedding some tears in the Pacific Northwest. But that's how the ball bounces.
It'll never end there, for sure.
Now, getting on to coaching, and there's going to be 2 coaches I talk about, one a high school, one a college. The first major college football coach to win 10 games in 6 consecutive seasons. None other than Bobby Bowden of Florida State. First one to do that. Then also a shout out to, I believe his name is George Curry. He's probably the winningest high school football coach in Pennsylvania history. He coached his final game last Friday, and he coaches for the Berwick High School. I believe that's out in central Pennsylvania. But he's amassed over 450 wins in his career.
450.
Wow. And I believe that he's going to be stepping down, but quite an accomplishment, something that's worthy of making note. Moving on. Okay, Alan was talking about the Steelers, and we're going to talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers, their upcoming opponents, and what's going on with them. But I was reading over something here in short, and it's a group that provides ratings for professional football. They're called Pro Football Focus. They keep extensive stats and grades of every individual player in the NFL with a certain minimum number of stats.
That's interesting.
For amusement purposes only, then, there are some high and low grades they have for the Steelers, and we left out those who garnered grades in the middle of the pack. So, the good. Antonio Brown ranks first among all NFL receivers with a 25.9 overall rating, and I don't know what criteria they use.
I was going to ask.
But thanks
for that disclaimer.
That disclaimer there. Le'Veon Bell ranks first among NFL halfbacks at 14.4. D'Angelo Williams ranks 7th. These are in the NFL against their peers. Ben Roethlisberger ranks 3rd among quarterbacks at 20.2. Number 1 would be Carson Palmer with a rating of 36.1, and Tom Brady is next at 33.4. Pretty good company, Ben, so keep up the good work. Ramon Foster ranks 9th among guards for offensive linemen, and David DeCastro 14th.
Wow.
All right. Cam Hayward ranks 6th among 3-4 defensive ends at 25.4. Stephon Tuitt is 23rd at 5.6. Believe this or not, James Harrison ranks 7th among all 3-4 outside linebackers. Mike Mitchell is 9th, highest safety.
Really?
He's having a good year.
He is.
So
He's
now
healthy.
we get to the not so good. And one of the names that I find missing, which I'm surprised about. I'll get done with after. But Bud Dupree ranks 49th out of 51 outside linebackers in a 3-4 defense. Arthur Moats ranks 36th.
Yeah.
Not so good.
Not too.
Lawrence Timmons ranks 54th out of 57 inside linebackers.
Wow.
Ryan Shazier is 38th at -9. Antoine Blake has the dubious distinction of being one better than the worst. He ranks number 109 out of 110 cornerbacks.
Oh, my.
With a -18.6. Ross Cockrell is the Steelers' highest-rated cornerback at 2.8 for 34th. Alejandro Villanueva ranks 57th out of 74 offensive tackles. And Cody Wallace ranks last of 36 centers. So now Chris Boswell is the 50th of 52 ranked kickers overall.
Those aren't very good stats.
Tied for 16th on his extra points. Now, the team. The 6-4 Steelers rank 16th in the NFL. Their offense ranks 7th. And their defense ranks 26 at a -29.0. But like I said, my trivia this week's a little on the light side, so I guess we're going to have to spend some time getting into our segments. But that's what I've got for you. But that's interesting, because if you look at these statistics here, you would say this is a Steeler team that is on the verge of being what I predicted before the season started, a 6-10 football team. Yeah. And they certainly do not look like that. Actually, they look like one of the odds-on favorites in the AFC to make the playoffs. Now, whether or not they can make the win the division, well,
time will tell.
We got 6 games to figure that one out, and we'll get into that more when we get into our Steelers segment.
Yeah, well, thanks, Chip. I appreciate it. That was a good segment anyways.
Yeah, I had a lot more information that was good.
I'm sure you're
high
in
school
depth.
statistics, but hey, I did the best I could on an arm.
Yeah, that's all. No problem there. I'll do our little on-location segment. We had a great time, another great show. It's Amir's The Park House. Great guests. We had some City League Hall of Famers that are friends of Smokin' Jim. Special shout out to Pep Farrow. He's been wanting to come on our show. Now he's been on our show, so he's very happy with that. Nate Brown was on. And then we had a Gateway gentleman, Barrett, who was there, and his son was a superstar there. And Smokin' Jim gave one of the loudest and best promos, of course, for a Gateway family. So I told Smokin' Jim, post the photo up, and he was laughing there like he usually does. But I meant that. We had Jesse, who is our MMA guy and jiu-jitsu, and he does a lot of things with a blog, and it's White Belt Survival, so you can check him out. He's always putting out different promos with that, and he trains right down the road here at the Steel City Martial Arts, right in Route 88, Castle Shannon there, so it's not that far away. A lot of people I know have been there, brought their kids there, so he's doing great things in the community there also. So we had a nice show there. Our next show, we're going to be at December 7th at the Hollywood Lanes. It's been remodeled. Jeff is the owner, and he's just ecstatic about having us there to do a show. And they have cosmic bowling. They're even going to have duck pins.
Where's the Hollywood Lanes located?
It's in Dormont Village,
okay,
right in the middle.
Right, just
it's 2 blocks, about 2 blocks away. So it's a nice location. When you go there, they got all kind of different specials. You know, they have a bar there. They got food. So there's a lot of things there. It'll be very interesting. They got a great stage. And they've had Steelers there. They've had other celebrities. They also have groups that sing, individuals that sing, and they even help with different fundraisers. So we're going to do a lot of things. He's agreed that we're going to have a show once a month there, the first of each month. December 7th at 7:30 will be our first show. So check that out. We're around and about. You see that. And Devin sent me a text. Now we're at 4,964 likes. So
just keeps getting better and better.
Yeah, and just in the last 2 weeks, Chip, what's amazing is we've gotten over 60 likes. So we're moving forward slowly but surely. People are watching the show. I thank the thousands of people that are watching us on Tuesday nights in every community. We get a lot of great feedback. And just like when we didn't have that audio, I posted it on a few places, and people go, oh, thanks for doing that, because we couldn't hear you. So we did get some nice feedback there. And that's my on-location thing. So we'll see you out and about in the public. And I know a lot of people were, I don't know if Devin's sending me another text there. Yeah, he is. I wonder what happened here, folks. I usually don't use my phone, but having a smartphone, I get all these quick updates. Oh, man, we just got another like. 4965. The smartphone tells it all. Thanks, Devin Shea in the control room. We appreciate what you're doing there tonight, especially since we're by ourselves right now, Chip. We got this great lighting here. Thanks to Dave Cable. We did a couple tips. We got lights crisscrossing, so hopefully you can see us here. We're outstanding here.
I don't have those dark circles under my eyes.
No, not right now. They lightened that up. Thanks, makeup lady. No.
Makeup.
There's no makeup, and there's no spray tan. Contrary to those rumors, neither one of us has a spray tan, even though I get accused of it by Smoking Jim. Just drink some green tea while you're out on the deck for about 20 minutes, and you get some sun. Or cut grass like Chip does everywhere in the area. So
yeah,
somehow that'll happen.
I can't stand being inside.
Well, you got wintertime coming, so.
Well, I put on a little bit more clothing, that's all.
There you go. I don't know how that grass goes when you got the snow on, though. I want to see you do that.
I find something to do.
Okay, sounds good. All right, let's not play around with Steeler talk anymore. Let's delve right into the Steelers. They're on a bye week. Hopefully we got some guys healing up, especially Big Ben, with the foot and the knee. We need that. He was fantastic in his last game. Best performance by a backup ever in NFL history. Yeah. So we have something to build on, get some other guys a little bit healthier. Everybody got dings and little bruises and more serious things they won't tell us. So I'm hopeful right now because I did predict 8-8. That defense has surprised me at times. And other times they surprise me in a bad way because they're worse than they should be on some things. So,
well, I think one of the biggest surprises that I have seen out of Keith Butler's defense that we didn't see out of Dick LeBeau's defense the last 2 years is that this is a defense that is now starting to create turnovers. And Mike Mitchell is starting to make people hear footsteps, which was something that the Steelers' defense in the past was always known for. You had James Harrison, who was ready to take off anybody's head in a moment's notice.
Among others, too.
And you had Ryan Clark ready to lay the hammer down. Troy Polamalu was all over the field. Well, those guys are gone. James Harrison is not the linebacker he was half a dozen years ago, but he's still an effective linebacker. But what the Steelers are doing is they're getting the turnovers that they weren't getting. They're getting the sacks. Actually, the Steelers, I believe, are in the top 5 in sacks in the NFL this year.
They are.
And that's what really can help you to hide a suspect secondary.
Well, they've dumbed the defense down. They're not playing the same defense that LeBeau had. The Tampa 2, they're using more of that, and it's a little varied with what they do.
Well, I think, in what LeBeau's defense was, he had a system, and originally he had players that were drafted for his system, but as those players started getting older and slower and unable to play that game, the athletes that were coming in weren't necessarily good fits for that defense. And the mark of a good coordinator is somebody that's going to adjust his defense, offense, what have you, to the talents of his team. And as much as I hate to say this, this is something that Bill Belichick is a master of. It doesn't matter who comes, who goes. He finds a way to.
He adjusts his defense or offense that way. Yeah.
It'll be interesting what happens moving forward with the New England Patriots. They lost Julian Edelman. They lost Danny Amendola last night.
Oh yeah.
They actually have had as many or more injuries than the Steelers have, and they just somehow find a way to win week after week after week. And you look at what's going on with the Baltimore Ravens. They lost their franchise quarterback. They lost their number 1 running back. They lost their number 1 wide receiver. Yeah. And of course, they're probably going to play their way right into a very high draft pick this year because at 3-7, it looks like what are they going to do the rest of the year? I do know that there will be one game they'll be up for when we go down to visit them in the
Right.
at the big crab cake down there in Baltimore.
Well, I think we should be up for that game too. We'll need a win at that time,
But you look at the Steelers coming off a bye week. Ben's had another week for his foot to heal. That can only bode well for them. The offensive line has been protecting him very well.
Yeah.
And they're going to have to do that for the Steelers to be successful. The Steelers are in a great place in the AFC, and especially after this past weekend, because the teams that were vying for one of the wild card spots, the Raiders lost, the Bills lost, the Jets lost. Right. Everybody that we needed to lost, the Bengals lost, and now they're only up on us 2 games in the division. Some things would have to fall our way for them
to win the division.
To win the
tough,
division.
Yeah.
But really, what the Steelers need to focus their energies on, and if you listen to Tomlin's press conference today, is they just need to handle their business.
Sure.
They don't need to worry about what anybody else is doing. We need to prepare ourselves to go out to Seattle this weekend and beat a Seattle team that's 5-5. Now you look at that 5-5, you say, not really that good. Well, Seattle still has the number 2 ranked defense in the NFL, and they haven't been playing up to par. Marshawn Lynch, I do believe he may be out for quite some time. He's got a sports hernia. But the kid that they brought in to back him up last weekend, and his name escapes me right now, only rushed for 210 yards as the Seahawks just destroyed the 49ers. And that's a 49er team that the Steelers handed them their hat back in September here in Pittsburgh. So
sure.
It'll be an interesting game to watch this weekend. Hopefully I'll be back from New Jersey in time to watch the game this week.
Isn't that
a 4:25 game?
Yeah,
so
you have a chance.
We should be home in time.
And the weather's supposed to be pretty good. So.
Yeah, weather's going to be just fine as far as driving. And I'm telling you what, I wouldn't go near an airport this weekend, not for all the money in the world.
Yeah, I understand with all the circumstances out there.
Oh, yeah.
Who needs it? We'll get back to sports, but the Steelers traveling to the West Coast, I always worry about how the team will play. Because you see a lot of teams when they travel, there's something amiss.
Well, the thing is, if the Steelers were going to travel to the West Coast to play a 1-9 Oakland Raider team, I would be extremely worried about the Steelers. But it always seems that the Steelers answer the bell when they're playing one of the better teams. Seahawks, they've been to the last 2 Super Bowls. They won one, they lost one. Right. So,
and as they're still crying about the Super Bowl, that could fire the Steelers up a little more. Who knows? You need some bulletin board material.
You need something, but I think the Steelers are going to come out prepared and ready to go. Like I said, Ben's foot 1 week healthier. I know,
and his knee also. Remember, his knee has to heal up too. He'll wear the brace.
D'Angelo Williams was, had a bruised foot, and that's had a week to heal as well. We need to protect D'Angelo Williams. We need to use him, but we do need to protect him because, if he goes down, we're really thin at the running back position.
Yeah. But we may have some talent there. The one kid that come in, I forget his name, Todman,
yes.
Yeah, okay. He come in and showed some little spark there that he could do something. So
things are. I'd say the arrow is pointing up for the Steelers moving forward. Now, there's only one thing that remains to be seen is you got to play the games. They play them for a reason.
Plus, they have to win the games one at a time. Though we'll take one at a time.
Anything that we've seen happen over the last half decade is that when we expect the Steelers to win, sometimes they forget to get on the plane to show up, and when we say that they don't have a chance to win. A lot of people are picking the Seahawks to beat the Steelers. Maybe that's the fuel they need to feed their flame for this weekend.
Oh, exactly. And they do play up to the level, as we know. And they do play down to the level, although sometimes they do win when they're playing down to that level. So I'll be a little bit optimistic on it. I could see it seems like they're a little better team. And the schedule that looks so bad, like we said earlier in the year, you have trades because of free agency. You also have injuries. Well, injuries have run rampant.
And it's not the Steelers aren't the only one that got bit by that bug. And but that's the thing about professional football. if you're a professional football player, there's 100% chance that at some point or another you're going to have some type of an injury.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's just the nature of the sport. And, you tip your hat to the coaches that can get people prepared to step in because it's the next man up mentality. And that goes across the NFL. So
No, and even though I've been frustrated as they rebuild because they have a lack of talent. So they've had to change things, like you say, for that level of talent.
But
they've had some success with it.
And here's us. I think Pittsburgh sports fans, a very knowledgeable group of people, but I think we're also very spoiled.
How could you not be?
Over with the exception of the Pirates and their 20 years of losing, we've got a Pirates organization that has once again become successful and something to be reckoned with. The Steelers always seem to have a team that does well. The Penguins are playing well, and we're going to have a Penguin segment because I've got something to go on with there.
Yeah.
But when our team underperforms and they end up 8-8, we're up in arms, and everybody's saying that Mike Tomlin should be fired. He doesn't know what he's doing. And, I think Mike Tomlin is as good of a head coach in the NFL as there exists today. And anybody that thinks that he should be terminated, I can tell you what, there are teams right now that are lined up to make it to the playoffs. And if Mike Tomlin got fired, they would fire their current head coach and hire Tomlin. So,
and he's still one of the youngest head coaches.
To kind of get to my point, you got the Cleveland Browns, who came back into the NFL after 5 years in 1999. They have gone through 23 quarterbacks, I believe 8 head coaches, 6 general managers. Okay, and
that's not consistent.
They're 2-8. Okay, they don't have a prayer to go anywhere. And last year they thought that there were signs of encouragement, that maybe the glass was becoming a little closer to half full. But they were only 7-9 last year. And if your fan base can get excited over 7-9, then maybe we shouldn't be so critical when the Steelers go 8-8.
We are spoiled, and even though we were rebuilding, look how we were 12-4.
Yeah.
And that's due to the schedule, but also they played well enough to win, and that's the key. Parity in the NFL. Yeah. If you don't recognize it, it's there.
It's alive and well. You look at the Baltimore Ravens. They lost Joe Flacco, MCL, ACL torn. They're 3-7. I believe of every single game they've played this year, all 10 games have been decided by 8 points or fewer.
Yeah.
Which just goes to show you it's
parity.
It could be a play here, a play there. Do you make it? Does your opponent make it?
Look at the Bills last night. Could have won the game.
Yeah.
When you look
But
down.
somehow the Patriots just seem to find a way every time. But here's a question to ask. We got 2 teams that are undefeated right now. We got the Carolina Panthers with Cam Newton, who's completely playing out of his mind right now.
Yeah.
And of course you got the Patriots. Is this the year that somebody actually goes 19-0? I think that somewhere along the line, the Patriots are going to stub their toe. And,
well, the Steelers will take care of it this year. I truly believe it's being set up for a Steeler win.
But if we play them in the playoffs, the way their records are and our records are, we're going to go to the place where we never perform well against them, which will be in Foxborough. Then they'll turn off the sound of the head coaches.
You think?
Oh yeah, they will. They'll pipe in some Grateful Dead music or something so that they can communicate. But this, and you know what? Roger Goodell, in his infinite wisdom, will assure us that the NFL is going to investigate this thoroughly,
like everything.
Which and to speak to that. The investigation they did into Greg Hardy's reinstatement. If anybody gets a chance, Google it. Read the transcripts from that that are out there and available.
I didn't because I figured he's guilty.
And it's unbelievable how cowed Roger Goodell and the NFL is by the Players Association and their attorneys. It's a shame.
Well, he's lost so many decisions after he was so powerful,
What do you
making
mean?
the wrong one.
What do you mean, like so many decisions? How about if he's lost every decision?
Yeah,
show
what does
me
he
one
want?
that he's won.
Yeah.
Show me one that he's won, and he hasn't yet.
No, that's a great point. Hey, we're going to leave the Steelers. I wanted to give a shout out to T.J. McConnell. I know the family. I know my dad's up in heaven smiling down because he saw little T.J. when he was growing up, a scrawny little kid. My dad would be so proud, and I know I'm proud to know him, see what he's done from Chartiers Valley, transferred to college out of Duquesne, where they signed him up like as a sophomore, went out to Arizona. Who would think he's playing in the NBA and he's actually doing well?
Yeah,
and that's a nice thing to hear out of Pennsylvania here, especially Pittsburgh.
And and it's ironic that he comes from a very basketball-heavy family. He's got a younger brother who's
Matty.
Matty's playing for Robert Morris. He's staying local, and and his father may give him the same advice that he gave TJ. TJ was playing here at Duquesne, and people were saying, you know what, he needs to go play against better talent, and that's why he worked out the transfer to Arizona.
And look what he did. He rose.
And another local basketball star who had made it onto the Johnny Carson show, dribbling basketballs, Sean Miller.
Yeah.
Okay, his father was a basketball coach, still is out in Blackhawk.
Yeah.
But our hats off to him, and let's not forget his also famous aunt, who's head coach of the Pitt Panthers, the women Panthers,
exactly.
who brought them to the NCAA tournament after a couple of abysmal years. So,
sure.
It's great news for Western Pennsylvania and of course the Mcconnell family and the WPIAL. So there are athletes out there.
It's nice to see somebody achieve that type of success, and he's doing it continually right now. And sure, it's on a bad team, the Philadelphia 76ers, but he is in the NBA.
Well,
other teams had interest.
Yeah, but here's the thing. Maybe the misfortune of the Philadelphia 76ers, who haven't won a game yet this year, is giving TJ the opportunity to play and showcase his talents. And now people are seeing that this kid can play basketball, and he may ultimately end up being the starting point guard on this team. And the fact that they haven't won a game is not a result of his play. I mean, you have to look at the coach, and the coach is coach, right? And the players play the game, right. But maybe they don't have the athletes they need, but they do have a piece there that they can build.
He's consistent. Look at the assists. I think he's like 6 or 7 assists a game. Yeah. Around the same amount with points.
And he's not turning the ball over.
No.
And and he picked LeBron James clean one night and passed it off to for a layup for somebody else. And I'm going to tell you what, you would think the kid would be starstruck. LeBron James, everybody's thinking.
Well, they usually let him come up the court.
But usually people step out of his way,
right.
And nobody told he didn't get that memo, and I like that. It shows some grit.
Well, he comes from a gritty family here. There's no doubt.
Yep.
So I just wanted to bring that up.
So now to get to some Penguin talk.
Yeah.
And we've got Pitt football to discuss after that.
We do.
And I'm going to just a couple of minutes. The Penguins. This is a team that's in the process of trying to find itself. They're finding a way to win games. They're not doing it with the flair or the flamboyance that we've been used to seeing. Sid Crosby's having a power drought.
That power outage, I call it.
But still, the Penguins are finding a way to win more games than they lose. But I read something interesting today. I got an update, and it listed Forbes magazine listed the top NHL franchises, and for the first time ever, the New York Rangers were the #1 ranked NHL franchise, worth $1.2 billion.
Wow.
Montreal Canadiens were number 2 at $1.15 billion. From that point, everybody else was under $1 billion, and I did not see a certain team from Pittsburgh even in the top 10. The list was cut off, and I didn't go any further because I didn't have much time today. But the number 10 rated team by Forbes magazine was the Washington Capitals at $565 million. Not a bad chunk of change. Here's where the problem lies. Mario Lemieux and Ron Burkle were trying to get $750 million for the Penguins, and they would put them up for sale earlier. Now, I do know that they have land ownership rights where the Civic
Sure.
Arena used to be, and there's developments going to be going on there. But who in their right mind would pay $200 million more than a team is worth? I don't care who you've got on the roster.
Right.
The Penguins' star is starting to fade somewhat, and the only thing I think that could get that changed is for them to have a deep run in the playoffs this year. And I don't know if this team is built to do that just yet. But let's not lose sight of
Fleury,
the fact.
don't count him out on anything.
No, it's November the 24th, okay?
Yeah.
Now, if this was April or say this was March 24th and we're still stumbling around, then we'd have big problems. They've got a long way to go.
Sure.
Ali Mata was horrifically injured last week. Can't believe that, a penalty wasn't called on that.
No.
That there was no suspensions, no discipline from the league. He was checked into an open door. Has sustained internal injuries. And I don't know if Ali Mata, I know he's got a tremendous
I heard he
amount
hit
of
the
talent.
ice. He was on the ice
He's
today.
got a tremendous amount of talent. And, and his future looks bright. But, boy, I'm going to tell you something. This is a kid that has had a bigger run of bad luck than Sid Crosby's had in the last 4 or 5 years. I mean, this kid's had both shoulders operated on. He had cancer. He had mumps. I know. Is it going to get any worse for the kid? I'm
Just don't say it can't get any worse,
Well,
but let's get better.
But
get healthy.
No, on a positive note, he was out on the ice skating today. He's probably still 2 to 3 weeks away from being able to come back. But the fact that he's back on his feet and he's back on his skates is going to bode well for the Penguins.
Boy, he is
Need
young.
him.
What's he, 22?
20, I believe.
20? Okay.
I don't even think he's old enough to drink yet.
Okay, well, that's good then.
Yeah.
He doesn't need that.
No, he doesn't need those kind of
No
trouble.
doubt. But
So
where are we gonna go? What do you
the
want to
Penguins got the St. Louis Blue Notes tomorrow night before Thanksgiving. Now, next thing we got to go is, if anybody would have told me after 11 games that the Pitt Panthers would be 8-3, I would have signed up for that in a heartbeat. And Pitt has a pretty nice thing going. Pat Narduzzi's got a good thing going. The thing that impresses me the most about this Pitt team is their ability to make adjustments, and they seem to be a stronger team in the second half than they are in the first half. Now, this past week against Louisville, they had their best 15 minutes of football in the second quarter.
Right.
I believe they scored 35 points in the quarter. Now, Louisville looked like they were going to climb back into the game.
Yeah.
But the thing that the Pitt team didn't do was they didn't collapse.
Right.
They stood up. They got a couple of scores towards the end of the game to kind of ice it. And I believe a young man who has been much maligned, injured, had 5 sacks in that game. He's a kid that played from Woodland Hills.
Yep.
And he won the Defensive Player of the Week award in the ACC. And it seems like every week some other Pitt player is winning an award as ACC Rookie of the Week, Offensive Player of the Week.
There's some talent. If you notice, Narducci's a defensive guy. And that defense, looks so much different from last year. And it's basically the same players. A couple new players, of course.
I think one of the best things that could have happened to Pat Narduzzi was him being invited to go down to watch the bowl game last January when Pitt got completely embarrassed.
Yeah.
And saw, because he saw right there, live and living color, right in front of him.
Couldn't miss it.
This is what our defense, and the team is playing much better. Now, they play University of Miami at noon on Friday, Heinz Field. Pitt could literally end up the season 9-3. 9-3.
Imagine it.
It's just it's beyond belief that you would say that a first-year head coach, basically with none of the athletes that he recruited, with the exception of Jordan Whitehead.
Right.
It was a gutsy call in the Iowa game to replace Chad Boytek with Nate Peterman.
Yeah.
And Peterman's done nothing but rise to the task.
Here's a stat. You've probably seen it, but from the last game and the first half, in 60 minutes, they scored 63 points. When do you even hear of Pitt doing that? So that's like in a 60-minute full game, scoring 63 points if you need to do the math,
which
is amazing.
Once again, the arrow's pointing up, to use one of Coach Tomlin's, right? I mean, I think, they're starting to get some of the local talent. This Kazon Pugh from Aliquippa, he's good.
And we've talked about that before. When you have some success and you have local kids doing it, then you're going to have more of them come here. Why wouldn't they?
And more success is going to breed more fannies in the seats coming to the game. Pitt fans have been so maligned for the last 30 years. Every time they got a little hope in the Pitt football program, the rug got pulled out from under them. Yeah. So I understand that people are not coming out in droves yet. But
unless Notre Dame plays here.
Well, if they continue to do as they have been doing, there's nothing but upside here for the Pitt football program.
I enjoy watching their games when you get them on there. Beginning of the year, I had to use that smartphone to keep the updates.
Right.
So it's nice watching them on TV.
Yeah,
and exciting games and winning these games.
Well, and that's the thing. It used to be same old Pitt. They'd go toe-to-toe with somebody, and then they'd give it up at the end. And
they almost have, but they've won.
They found a way to win games. And,
an interception here, a sack, some good plays. So it's exciting football.
Yeah, it is really good to see the Pitt program turning around. Jamie Dixon's basketball team has started out the season pretty strong.
You usually malign that because they're playing the little sisters of the poor.
Here's the thing: one of the first games of the year that they were going to play was against a top-ranked Gonzaga team, and unfortunately, due to circumstances beyond their control,
humidity in the court, a wet floor. I was watching the game, Chip.
I saw James Robinson's feet slip out from underneath him, and he banged his face off the floor. I was like, how can they let this game go on? And then channel surfed, came back, and the game was over. And that was the right thing to do. But, it's a gutsy move to go against a top 10 ranked team right out the bat because, to be honest with you, the conditions were the same for both teams. And the
Panthers did better.
They were playing square up with them.
I watched it. I was interested in seeing that game. So
so they've got some games now. Next Friday, not day after Thanksgiving, a week from then, the city game's going to be played. Pitt and Duquesne. Now, Duquesne is now, I believe, they're 4-1. They left to go to a tournament. They were 3-0. Duquesne started out the season strong. They lost yesterday to Pepperdine, and they won today in a tight overtime game, I believe, 96-92, and the name of their opponent escapes me. But, this is a game that should be received well. It's for city bragging rights. Duquesne at one time was the most impressive college basketball team in the Pittsburgh area by and large. And they fell out of the national spotlight. But, wouldn't it be nice to see both the teams become successful?
Why not? We got a lot of great athletes here. They're recruiting. So you got kids coming from all over. It's nice to see these games being played.
Yeah, it is. I like that. I like to support our local teams. I like to support our local talent. I'll be critical of them as well. We don't.
We do that anyhow. We can't help ourselves.
We don't have any bucko talk tonight. Things are pretty slow, but nobody's making any big moves in the free agent market. And I heard somebody say usually the first deals that are made in free agency are great for the player, but not so good for the team. Yeah. And I think people are being more cautious about throwing
money around,
hundreds of millions and long-term contracts to free agents because look what happened with the Yankees and A-Rod.
Right. Don't get me started there. We're out of time, Chip. I want to thank everybody for watching. Thanks for listening to the Al and Chip Marathon. Hope we entertained you. Hope you learned a few things. Renee, when you watch this, I hope it was insightful for you. She's our friend up at the Market District. Stay Joey strong.